Hey, welcome to the Recovery Book Club podcast.
And in every episode, we unpack a different book, venturing beyond simple explanations to confront the profound, sometimes difficult, but consistently essential discussions about mental health and addiction.
We'll break down the central themes, the lived experiences, and the innovative concepts revealed in each work, and then translate these intricate topics into something authentic and relatable.
If you're on a journey of personal healing, walking alongside someone who is, or just seeking a deeper grasp of how recovery unfolds, you'll find your place here. Let's get into it.
It's truly startling how trauma shapes our bodies and minds, often in ways we don't consciously recognize. Bessel Van Der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score really emphasizes this profound connection.
Absolutely. The book's central thesis that trauma leaves a tangible imprint, not just on our psychological state, but also on our physical being, is a crucial starting point. It argues that this imprint has ongoing consequences for how we navigate the present, extending far beyond the initial traumatic event itself.
Yeah, and it's not just the obvious big traumas like war or major accidents. Van Der Kolk makes a compelling case that even common experiences like childhood neglect or domestic abuse wreak havoc in our bodies. The book highlights research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, stating that 1 in 5 Americans was sexually molested as a child, and 1 in 4 was beaten by a parent to the point of leaving a mark. These aren't isolated incidents, they're widespread public health issues.
Exactly. The book delves into how trauma physically alters the brain, affecting the brain's alarm system, increasing stress hormone activity, and changing how we filter information. It explains that these physiological changes are why traumatized individuals become hypervigilant and struggle to engage with daily life, often repeating problematic behaviors because of actual brain alterations, not moral failings. The impact is far-reaching, even affecting those around the trauma survivor. Children of depressed mothers, for example, are at risk of growing up insecure and anxious.
The book really drives home the idea that trauma, by its very nature, is unbearable and intolerable. Most survivors try to push it out of their minds, pretending nothing happened, which takes a tremendous amount of energy. Yet the survival part of our brain isn't good at denial or activating and the slightest hint of danger. This leads to intense physical sensations and impulsive actions that feel incomprehensible, leaving survivors feeling damaged to their core. The author details his early experiences with Vietnam veterans like Tom, who struggled with nightmares, flashbacks, and emotional numbness, unable to connect with his family. These veterans' rages and emotional absence frightened their families and staff, leading to violent outbursts. This puzzling behavior, initially mistaken for simple psychological issues, led Van Der Kolk to realize trauma had a physiological basis.
Yes, he discovered Abram Cardiner's work from World War I, which described similar phenomena, referring to it as physioneurosis, which is basically meaning it's not all in one's head. This was revolutionary. The book explains how early brain imaging techniques like PET and fMRI allowed scientists to visualize what happens in the brains of traumatized people.
The key finding was the activation of the limbic area or emotional brain during flashbacks, triggering stress hormones. But even more surprising was the deactivation of Broca's area, a speech center, during these moments. This provided visual proof that trauma can cause effects similar to physical lesions, rendering people speechless with horror and unable to articulate their experiences. The brain literally goes offline in the areas needed for a coherent narrative.
It also showed that traumatic memories activate only the right side of the brain, the intuitive, emotional, visual side, while deactivating the left, linguistic, and analytical side. This explains why traumatized people are trapped in past reactions, unable to process events in logical sequences or use language to describe their feelings.
The book further explains that the brain's primary job is survival. It generates internal signals for needs, maps the world to satisfy them, generates energy for action, warns of dangers, and adjusts actions accordingly. Trauma interferes with every one of these functions, causing psychological problems when these systems break down. The Triune brain model, reptilian, limbic, and neocortex is central here.
Right. The reptilian brain, responsible for basic life functions like eating and sleeping, is the oldest part. If these functions are disrupted by trauma, the entire organism is thrown into disequilibrium. The limbic system, the seat of emotions, and the danger monitor, is shaped by early experiences. If a child is frightened or unwanted, this part of the brain specializes in managing fear and abandonment rather than exploration and cooperation.
And the neocortex, our rational brain, is responsible for higher functions like language planning and empathy. However, if the emotional brain detects danger, it can partially shut down the higher brain, leading to automatic fight, flight, or freeze responses. This can result in people feeling stuck in these survival modes long after the danger has passed.
The concept of the amygdala as the smoke detector and the medial prefrontal cortex as the watchtower is a brilliant analogy. The amygdala rapidly identifies threats, even before conscious awareness, triggering stress hormones. But in PTSD, this system malfunctions, leading to misinterpretation of safe situations as dangerous.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Recovery.com.
When you or someone you love is facing a mental health or addiction challenge, the path to treatment can feel overwhelming.
Recovery.com gets it. They empower anyone to find treatment based on their needs. Here is how it works.
First, search over 20,000 mental health and addiction treatment providers, filtering by things like location, insurance, and conditions.
Then compare your options. View photos, reviews, cost, program details, and more.
Finally, connect directly to treatment providers to start your own recovery story.
Recovery.com, the best place to find mental health and addiction treatment for anyone, anywhere. Now, back to the episode.
The book emphasizes how profoundly adverse childhood experiences like emotional abuse and neglect can be as devastating as physical or sexual abuse. The inability to be seen, known, or feel safe is particularly destructive for young children who are still developing their sense of self. This often leads to deep disconnection from one's own body, making it difficult to feel fully alive.
It's striking how many patients reported not being able to feel entire areas of their bodies or recognize objects by touch, as discussed in the book. This sensory insensibility highlights a fundamental impairment in their self-sensing system. The studies on the idling brain or default state network showed that chronically traumatized individuals have almost no activation in the brain areas responsible for self-awareness.
This explains why so many traumatized people lose their sense of purpose and direction, struggling to make decisions or even define what they want. The book argues that to heal, these self-sensing resources need to be reactivated, often through bottom-up approaches that involve working with bodily sensations. The discussion of Mary Ainsworth's and Mary Bain's work on attachment styles is also vital, showing how inconsistent or abusive caregiving leads to disorganized attachment, which profoundly impacts a child's ability to regulate emotions and form healthy relationships later in life.
And the Adverse Childhood Experiences, or ACE study, really underscores this. It revealed that childhood trauma is far more common than imagined and has direct links to chronic depression, substance abuse, suicide attempts, and even major physical health problems in adulthood. What was particularly impactful was the finding that for every additional adverse experience, the toll and later damage increases.
The book offers hope, detailing various avenues for healing. The core objective is to reestablish ownership of one's body and mind, essentially reclaiming self-leadership. This involves learning to become calm and focused, maintaining that calm when faced with reminders of the past, fully engaging in the present, and not keeping secrets from oneself.
EMDR, or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, is presented as a powerful tool for integrating traumatic memories. It seems to help the brain put traumatic experiences into a larger context without overwhelming the individual, allowing them to observe their experiences in a new way. The author's personal experience and studies showed its effectiveness in transforming deeply painful recreations of trauma into memories of a distant past.
Another fascinating approach is neurofeedback, which helps to rewire the brain by nudging it to produce more desirable brainwave patterns. It's been shown to improve focus, attention, and emotional regulation, even in cases of severe developmental trauma and addiction. The idea is to stabilize the brain and increase resilience, giving individuals more choices in how they respond to stress.
And the exploration of body-aligned variety approaches, like yoga and psychomotor therapy, is crucial. The book emphasizes that the body keeps the score, meaning that trauma is encoded in physical sensations and muscle tension. These therapies aim to release these frozen tensions, cultivate interoception, and allow individuals to re-inhabit their bodies safely, fostering a sense of agency and physical self-awareness.
The Body Keeps the Score fundamentally reshapes our understanding of trauma, moving beyond a purely psychological or medical model to embrace a holistic view that includes the brain, mind, and body. Its paramount message is that while trauma shatters lives, human beings possess an extraordinary capacity for resilience and healing, especially when supported by caring relationships and interventions that address the deep physiological imprints of trauma. The book argues that many behaviors labeled as mental illnesses are, in fact, desperate, albeit maladaptive, attempts at survival. Understanding this shifts the focus from symptom suppression to genuine transformation.
The societal implications are immense. Recognizing childhood trauma as a major public health issue rather than an individual failing is crucial. The book advocates for broad societal changes, including universal access to high-quality early childhood programs that foster secure attachment and self-regulation. It suggests that investing in these preventative measures would lead to significant reductions in mental illness, substance abuse, crime rates, and even long-term health problems, saving, billions of dollars annually.
The ultimate takeaway is a call for a trauma consciousness society that prioritizes safe connections, attunement, and interventions that help people regain control over their inner worlds. The book emphasizes that the path to recovery involves not just understanding the past, but deeply integrating new experiences rooted in safety, mastery, and connection. It leaves a lasting impression of hope, stressing our innate capacity for healing when provided with the right support and tools to mend the broken connections within ourselves and with others.
If you're interested in diving even deeper into the key ideas of The Body Keeps the Score, you can find an even more detailed article linked up in the show notes for this episode.